in every ride.
Okay, starting with a bit of weather. Smash that like button, folks. I see what you did there, Tony. Smash that like button, folks, or it will rain. So you know,
rain. It started raining, Jackie, a couple of hours ago, but we had a very, very nice day today.
Which counts as sunshine, right?
It counts as sunshine. But you know, I was just saying to a pal today, I quite like it when the weather gets it wrong, because yesterday it was supposed to rain and it was sunny all day, and today it was supposed to rain and it was sunny until about 4 o'clock, something like that.
Why do we still bother with those sort of weather forecasts when they're so invariably wrong?
It's like horoscope. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I know there's going to be people who get annoyed about it. It's like horoscopes. You know, why do we read? Oh,
when did you ever think twice about saying something because people were going to get annoyed?
This is me. I'm being woke. I'm being woke.
Let's see how long that lasts tonight. Good evening, because I've got some stories tonight. There was a late entry tonight, right? That's going to challenge for any ideas of woke credibility you've got.
Well, I remembered another thing that I do, and I still do to this day. That I don't know if this is an example of woke.
Early woke off. Come on, give it to me.
Okay, if I'm out at night,
yes,
and I see a woman coming in the opposite direction, and I'm on the same side of the road, I cross the road.
Yep, same here.
I cross the road for her to feel comfortable about continuing her journey.
Yeah, I send her an email to say that she's nothing to fear as well. Evening TCS. Oh, the crypto strategist and Jack here in. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We know others are here, so come on, speak up in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you are, and your views on some of the stories this evening that we're looking at. Go on, mate.
No. I just accidentally played the theme song, but obviously no one could hear that, I guess.
No, we didn't hear that.
Okay.
Did you want to hear it?
I do love it, but probably 5 minutes in is not the time to start having technical problems. Or is it? I don't know.
Let me run through a few of the. I really don't like the word stories when it comes to news, but let's call them, for want of a better thing, hungry for change. We've got Viktor Orban stuck it to the man, or the woman actually, didn't he? Last week in the EU. I thought it was a tremendous performance, but then I felt a little bit awkward because a lot of people say he's a very nasty man and he comes from a terrible regime. Is all government socialist? That was Daniel Priestley responding to how the new Labour government in the UK are going to be putting up taxes and an anti-industrialist.
Can I just interrupt you and say, isn't that a problem though, Carl? I mean, I remember recently Candace Owen. Do you know who Candace Owen is? She's she's
alongside. That makes absolutely no sense. What's he called? Ben Shapiro's.
Ben Shapiro. Yeah, she's on his crew, and Kermit the Frog.
Oh yeah, he's on there as well, isn't he? Yeah,
yeah. But she got in trouble recently because she had said something about something that Hitler, I think it was Hitler, something about one of Hitler's policies. She was saying, I can't remember the context now, but what it is like, take the Hungarian guy. I mean, obviously, I mean, how to put it? Someone can say something you agree with, but you don't like them or any of the other stuff they do.
I can accept that. I can accept that. A long time ago, I posted it reminds me immediately of a public shaming I got when I posted up something Bill Cosby had said. It's like a meme of him, and I didn't know what he'd been up to in show business because I just wasn't tuned into what was going on. And a friend of mine, somebody who I have generally in mind as a moral consciousness from the left, or a conscience, I should say, not consciousness, a conscience. They're different, aren't they? Said, did you mean to post that? Do you know what he did and what he does? And it's like, I do. And I think, it's a bit of a toss up, isn't it? It's like, well, okay, I'll take it down because,
no one plays the wobble board anymore, do they?
Or the stylophone. Yes.
I still think Jake the Peg is a great song. You know what I mean?
And Two Little Boys. I mean, you couldn't wish for a song, but it's a great song, isn't it? With a fantastic sentiment to it. Do you
it
think
just sounds worse now? I mean, if you don't know the song and you only know who he is, and then you hear the name of one of his songs, you think,
oh, we're going into that territory, aren't we? The underlying menace of popular music. Because I was singing before my morning show this morning. What do you wanna make those eyes at me for? And and they don't mean what they say. And then you go a little bit later in the song. That's all right. I'll get you alone tonight, and you'll realize you're messing with dynamite. I mean, what do you do?
I saw this recently though. It's quite a thing. Is that don't they call it? I saw it on one of the YouTube news channels. Got to be careful what I say now. One of those bloody YouTube news channels. But he called it Twitter archaeology. I think he called it Twitter archaeology. Where they dig through into the past. But I saw it was Kamala Harris, for example. Apparently, there's a story come out that her husband, before he was her husband, assaulted a woman in Paris once.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, I guess it's a story, but again, I'm not exactly sure why that should have an impact on whether I would vote for Kamala Harris or not.
Oh, it would change my mind, but what I find difficult about these stories is that no one ever responds to them. There's so much of the news agenda is that pure speculation of what somebody is supposed to have done.
Yeah.
And all it's mainly doing, it seems like an 80-20. It has 80% effect, which is probably what it was about in the first place, to smear and besmirch other people. And if you're lucky, 20% of forensic diligence to find out if it's true or not. Yeah. But usually, I mean, with the type of rolling news agenda that we have now and that we live in, the main damage is done, isn't it, by the headline and the inference and the implication, and everything's moved on by the time that person's had a chance to defend themselves or not. The damage is done.
And I mean, presumably they knew about this was known about. At some time prior to it being, what is it, like a couple of weeks till the election? Yeah, do you know what I mean? Wow, they just found out about this now. That's amazing.
Dirty tricks, absolutely. And there's going to be a lot more of that.
And I mean, all sides do it.
Yeah, of course.
And then they talk about the October surprise. Have you heard about this theory? There's going to be an October surprise.
Yes.
And and I don't know if you heard the news, but apparently.
Well, looks like much more than that. I mean, if what you're talking about is a major upset that's going to stop Trump becoming president,
it's hard to say because isn't North Korea looking like they're just about to invade South Korea, like as we speak?
I wasn't abreast of that.
Well, I only got this information. I only got this information dropped in my inbox about 15 minutes ago.
Really? By whom, may I ask? By CNN or a mate or somebody in North Korea?
I don't know. I get so much stuff.
Somebody in South Korea, probably more likely.
But apparently Trump's already, I can't find it. I'm having a look on Trump's X feed. I can't see it now, but it's annoying because I did see it somewhere, but he's already said, now it's more important than ever to get me in because I had him under control. He had him under control.
Yes.
Rocket. Was it Rocket Man? Rocket Man.
That's right. Right.
He had him under control, didn't he?
If you've never seen us before, you'll be getting the gist, I think. We were Expat Euro News. That's still the name of our website where we gather together stories that have attracted our interest. Munson The Geeza, I think, is probably a better title for this enterprise, but we'll stick with that website.
Hey, here we go. I can link it. I can link it because I can see the story on Euro News. Go on.
Right. Not Expat Euro News.
North Korea have blown up sections of inter-Korean roads in a symbolic display of aggression towards South Korea following numerous drone incursions above Pyongyang.
Yes.
In a symbolic move. See how they play? They're downplaying it, guys. They're downplaying it.
Okay.
They're downplaying it. Yeah, I think so. I think we need Trump.
I was having a bit
Rain Rocket Man in.
Up the road in a little cafe, and it was on the telly, and I saw Pyongyang. I didn't see that at first. I saw rockets and explosions. I was thinking, what Portuguese road is that? I don't recognize it. And I did see it. I did see what you're referring to there.
Well, we need to know what's going on in North Korea.
Well, good luck with that. Good luck.
I don't know why. but we need to know.
What about all the other places that we need to know about that we don't know about? We should start staying awake at night, worrying about those as well.
Yeah.
Right?
The problem with this kind of thing is having lived in that region for quite a long time. What a lot of people don't realize is this stuff goes on all the time.
Exactly.
All the time.
Why today? Why today?
Yeah. They blow up. They, like once a year, they'll tit for tat blow up a hut or something on the
just
other
to keep
side.
each other on their toes.
Yeah.
That's the first story. Is not first story. The first question is who benefits, and the second question in today's news agenda might be why today. Often because it's a really boring news day, or because the focus, the lens is being shifted in a certain direction. Loving this crypto strategist. Theories for the October surprise, which would make a great name for a film, wouldn't it? Would be that Biden resigns.
Yeah, well, watch out for that one.
Sorry, I thought he had done that already effectively, de facto. Anyway,
maybe the crypto strategist doesn't know yet.
Meaningful progress is made in peace efforts in the Middle East or Ukraine, and Harris gets the credit. Well, you never know. You never know, do you? Yeah.
And then she could be busily working behind the scenes, so that's why whenever you see her on TV, she looks really frazzled.
When you say
she's communicate properly,
but
so busy behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, when you say she's busy working behind the
salidly.
What?
That's right. What did you say? She speaks salidly.
No. Whenever I see her, I had to. Okay, there's so many balls in the air.
I heard that you said sadly.
Sadly, I didn't even realize that.
She gets accused of speaking a word salad, doesn't she?
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, all right. Well, that's true as from the clips I've seen, and I have to say I have cultivated a very dim view and. Not the most emotionally positive view when I see her, the anchoring. I've been conditioned to see her in a certain way, and when you say she's working behind the scenes, I can only imagine that in one way. Unfortunately, these terrible stories that you hear about her. But
I'm not doing very well with her, to be honest. With Biden, I could find things.
Could you?
As I can with Trump, I can find positive things to say.
Right.
But with Harris, I really struggle because she doesn't appear to have, to my mind, she doesn't appear to have any policies, and she's kind of got herself into a trap, really, hasn't she? Because she can't. She's still the vice president, as things stand right now, so she can't slag off the boss. But her whole thing is change. But you kind of got to say, well, you've kind of been there for 4 years.
Yes. That reminds me, I've got to turn off my stream to Good Morning Portugal because I've probably already upset some of my American viewers at Good Morning Portugal. Tend to keep this thing out of that environment, but just wanted to stream a little bit to Good Morning Portugal to let you know that if you want to carry on listening to this, if I haven't upset you already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing against Americans, right? I don't think Trump or Harris are representative of the American side, either of them. So
no, exactly. And I think the whole thing is disgraceful, and I've written about that this week in the paper. It's disgusting, as it is in the UK as well. So when it looks like I'm singling out Kamala Harris for criticism, that's not in isolation. I'm not making a special case of her shortcomings. There are many.
That's right. We also didn't like Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama. I'm just joking. Please forgive me.
It's true. You're in a special kind of mood tonight, and I'm loving it. And I'm glad I've turned off the Good Morning.
I came here on the special bus.
What does that mean? Were you working behind the scenes?
Working behind the scenes.
On your special bus. Okay. Right. So Biden is not standing against, says the crypto strategist. And I heard about crypto and this being Jumptober, is it? I had a quick look at my Bitcoin. I haven't got much, but it's quite an improvement, crypto strategist. So you're probably happy, but you're hodling anyway, aren't you? You take a long-term view, I suspect. He will still be president until January what? Because the election doesn't settle, does it? If he resigns, Harris can stand as an incumbent. Oh my goodness! Right, okay. Yeah. So what he said is he won't be standing.
Democracy. Remember that. If you vote for Trump, you're going to lose your democracy. You got to keep the one in who didn't get in by being democratically elected. for some reason. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. I don't understand that either. Right. Yeah. I got into two of the stories over at Expat Euro News before you interrupted me. Not that that's a problem, but we're not going to make much progress going over our old stories. How have social media algorithms changed the way we interact? Poland to temporarily suspend right to asylum. PM Tusk says. PM Tusk.
That one's very interesting to me.
Cool.
Not because of the story in itself, but because of who is the Prime Minister. Do they call him the Prime Minister? It must be PM Tusk. What else is it going to be? The Postman. Yeah. It's not going to be Postman, is it? The
Premier. Let's call him the Premier.
Now, the thing about him is I'm old enough to remember him in the EU giving Nigel Farage a dressing down for wanting to suspend, or at least I don't think Farage ever went as far as talking about suspending the right to asylum. I think he wanted to control illegal and irregular immigration, which I would say is something sort of less controversial than asylum, because I think most people, including Nigel Farage, as I understand it, don't have a problem with genuine asylum seekers. Would that seem like a reasonable thing to say? And I think most people, except racists, don't have a problem with genuine asylum seekers. Yeah. So I find it quite interesting to see Tusk, of all people, proposing to temporarily suspend the right to asylum. So what does it say about him, Carl?
He's a politician that says one thing in one environment and then another thing in another environment to court popularity and support and stay in office.
Yeah,
if I may say so. Okay, is that a reasonable assessment?
So perhaps he doesn't care either way about asylum seekers.
I'm guessing if you were to ask him, he would say, I deeply care about this, and that is why, let me say for the record, I've done X, Y, and Z. But I don't really know. I'm just judging the behavior rather than the man there from what you told me and what I heard there. Yeah. Have algorithms changed the way we interact? I'm sure that's true. No question about it. I mean, I was going to ask you what goes through your mind when you're forming something to say in this social media environment, such as it is. There must be some sort of not ping pong, well, maybe ping pong, but pinball that goes on. Is like, I'm going to say this, but I better not say that and not say it like that, because if I do that, it's going to create a certain reaction. So what I want to take the meat and veg of what I'm saying, but I need to express it in a way that can get heard without triggering. Is it that sort of process that goes on that you do?
Yeah. So sometimes I think, for example, because I have a YouTube channel called The Geeza, in case anyone wasn't aware of that, and you can go and please like, share, and subscribe over there for all the best and most interesting.
If you don't, it's ignorant.
And if you don't, that's ignorant. So that would be an example, wouldn't it? I mean, I've got that little clip from South Park, and I'm forever sort of worried that one day they're going to give me a copyright strike times about 130 for using that little clip. But yeah, I am mindful of what I say on social media, and I know some people will say really, but I have on occasion been suspended from Facebook and X.
I've had a Facebook like then, I'd rather not have any YouTube problems, but
well, YouTube is kind of like you put a lot of work into it, don't you? I mean, it's not. I do say to people, I mean, people kind of say, "Oh, you do this for the clicks," and believe me, there's no money in it, guys. There's no money, but we do it because we love it and we like to. We're narcissists, aren't we, Carl? And we're egotists, and we want people to attention seeking. We want people to hear what we've got to say. We want people to hear our opinions. But you do.
I don't know about you, Tony, but when I was a child, I was felt quite afraid of my parents, so I didn't really speak my mind. And then I grew up into the advent of the social media era, which is perfect. I could just say what I like without being beaten, chastised, given a shaming look. Well, I can. I mean, I probably get all of those things, but I just can't see them, which is great. I can just do all of that from the comfort of my own studio here and express that part of my childhood, which was never able to be expressed.
Well, I think I've said this before to you on
that other show that you host. What's it called again?
Which one? What, the Good Morning Portugal show?
The Good Morning Portugal show. Nice plug there, Mr. Munson.
We did that, thank you. Yeah.
But
and what's yours again? What's yours? Sorry,
the Portuguesa. The Portuguesa.
Right, okay,
yeah. On my way to 10,000 subscribers, guys. Who's going to help me get there?
Okay,
but, right, no, I'm quite away from it.
Yeah.
But I think I said this to you before, is that one of the reasons I like Facebook, and some people disagree with this because they'll say people go on there and they kind of say offensive things or whatever. But I actually think it's a positive thing that it does give a voice to people who would otherwise be voiceless. I think.
Yeah, right.
I think there's probably a lot of people who use Facebook who maybe have because I hear this thing. People say, "Oh, it's okay for you to say that from your mum's basement," but what I try and do is try and be the contrarian, and I think, well, it must be pretty harsh living in your mum's basement, and if that's the only way you can communicate with the world, then whatever. I'm fine.
Mum, so I can't have dinner now, Mum. Can you do it for dinner?
Mum. I know this isn't the basement, but it's the same thing, okay?
Yes, metaphorically.
I can't come
That's you locked me in here. Anyway, okay. Where were we? We were just
Euronews.
The psychotherapeutic basis of why we're on social media. Oh yeah, of course. The algorithm, it's an norming and forming and storming and all that sort of stuff, is it? So it affects your success and social standing. So of course you adapt, and that's definitely happened with algorithms. It happens as a YouTuber, it happens on social media, and it happens in conversation in your community, doesn't it? This is just normal. These are just different expressions of the same social norming that we all go through. So I don't think it's a big surprise with that one, although it's very interesting to look at it.
In the BBC News articles, they're talking about, for example, how the EU has introduced new rules threatening to fine tech firms 6% of turnover.
Yeah,
6%. So it's kind of like an arbitrary amount, but anyway, and suspend them if they fail to prevent election interference on their platforms. I wonder if 6% of Twitter's turnover is anywhere near the amount that they send to Ukraine every month.
It's nothing compared to what we pay in tax here in Portugal, is it? So what I really liked about this was this quote going back to 1996. May I read this? Yep. In a 1996 essay that was republished by 500 websites, the closest you could get to going viral back then. Can you imagine? And there were blog rings or web rings or something, weren't there, where you would get this kind of traction, as I recall, when you were a blogger. US poet and cattle rancher John Perry Barlow argued, "Governments of the world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind," with a capital M. "On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather." Now, that hasn't aged well.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, obviously, if you're, they talk about Russian disinformation. I suppose that the problem is Russian interference. Yeah, it can work both ways, can't it? I mean,
like everything.
I just don't know that if you're, my experience of the algorithm, somewhere where it's very easy to see it at work is on YouTube. And I think I've said this before, you can do a very quick experiment yourself and try watching, I don't know, pick the BBC and the Guardian and a few left-wing, let's say, leaning news outlets, and watch 10 of their videos in a row, and you'll start getting that push to you.
Yes.
Because I kind of noticed this because, like, when I open my YouTube, to see kind of my, I don't like to competition, but you know what I mean, to see other Portugal YouTube channels. I don't get that. What I tend to get is motorcycle themed videos, because that's what I watch for pleasure. You know what I mean? So
I've been served up quite a few other soliloquy to camera. I was going to call them no hopers, but people who talk about the same sort of stuff as me and only get about 10 views per video.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of those. I'm finding myself in a kind of birds of a feather situation, and I love watching those people who just talk to camera, who aren't editorialized and who aren't slick, and just love just sharing what's on their mind. I find that much more edifying and interesting. Not always, but generally speaking.
So someone I find quite interesting is, and I know, I don't know, is Jackie still here?
I think so. We're talking about asylum with a crypto strategist and Jackie in just a moment.
But I think she mentioned that she quite likes. There's a chap called Maya Tusi.
Oh yeah.
Right now, I've kind of watched him since the beginning, and what's interesting is he's always been quite raw. He's obviously not like a professional broadcaster, but he kind of does a good job as an amateur, I think, and he gets out there among it in London, and he gets in the ear of the right people. But what I've noticed, and this is just my opinion, he's never made any pretense of being on the right of politics. Okay, does that make sense? I don't think he's ever made any pretense of that. You know what you're getting when you watch him. He's gonna be on the right. He likes Nigel Farage, for example.
Patriotic
is things like that.
He uses himself, isn't it?
Yeah, he uses that word himself. But what I would argue, and it's interesting to see, you don't see him now on the more mainstream. Like you know, he used to get interviews with certain politicians. I saw him on Julia Hartley-Brewer, and he doesn't get that anymore because he's swung a lot further right, in my opinion. He's quite
Tommy Robinson, right? But is
well, he's had Tommy Robinson on his show, and he's not, and you know, I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying he's obviously riding the algorithm, and since he's done that, you can see his subscriber count has gone through the roof. I think he's 600,000 or 700,000 subscribers now.
Yes, which must be quite an interesting position to be in every time you go to camera. I think it must be a different kind of pressure, mustn't it? Anyway, but this is not a YouTuber's clinic. We're looking at some of the headlines.
Well, no, but it's the algorithm, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So he's an algorithm jockey, I think, is what you're accusing.
Algorithm jockey, yeah.
Okay, French Minister Bruno Retailleau pushes for stricter EU migration policy. Slovakian Robert Fico, the PM there of Slovakia, pledges to prevent Ukraine's NATO bid while in office, and the revolution will not be televised.
So I think the reason I mentioned them again, not so much for the meat of the story, but just again to underline my point that I was making last week, which is there's a general shift to the right in the EU, isn't there? What do you think, Carl?
There would appear to be, wouldn't there? I don't. I think
populism. Maybe populism is better than. I don't really like this.
It's 80-20. The fact that we're having this conversation, and that the news gatherers put that shine on, or no, it's not a shine, is it? That angle on things makes you think that. And then if you drill down, it's like Portugal's a good example, isn't it? There are many more Shaker representatives in our parliament than there were a year ago, or you know, in the last parliament, and there's a lot of hyperbole about what that means, and you know how we're told how to see that, aren't we? Now, do you feel like you suddenly live in a more right-wing country because of that, or are you realizing that you live in exactly the same country, and all those people who were supported Shaker were there already, and they've just had their democratic rights exercised, and actually not a lot has changed apart from some people being more vocal about some things, but yet within the democratic machinery, it's like it's not been a major challenge to the budget, which was what the parliament's all about in the last week. I don't see that making an actual change. I just see that being a lot of the froth and noise of the hurly-burly of politics and you know, the reporting about society. I don't feel any change in society. Do you?
No, well, I think I've said this before many times. At 52, in more than one country, I've lived through many pendulum swings from the left to the right. So in Australia, the Labour and the Liberal Party. In England, Labour and the Tories. I mean, to be fair, in Hong Kong, there wasn't much pendulum swinging, but well, what I mean is I've got some experience of, you know, swinging. Everything's about to, I've got some, I've swung my pendulum in many a country. And well, that's the thing. It didn't make any difference.
Exactly. There you go. It doesn't seem to make much difference, does it?
But there was always going to be change. There was always going to be change,
yes.
Carl.
Yeah, and it's characterized. It's characterized by, you know, stuff and nonsense and steam and fury, isn't it? Of like, oh, it's going in that direction now, and you know, it's what's being said about the UK now. It's just like it's being.
I tell you what, I did have one experience where a change of government did make a big difference to me, and it was in what happened in. Was it a change of government or a change of policy? I could be getting this wrong here. So it must have been in 2000.
Policy changes things. Government
it must have been in the year 2000, and it was stamp duty.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
Stamp duty in England reduction.
Yes.
Was there a change of government in 2000 in the UK?
No, but I we get the gist of what you're talking about.
You know what it was? It was in the budget. I remember, but it was in the budget. But it was funny because it was unexpected. But I was literally buying a house. I was buying a house in Darlington, I think, and it wasn't. It was old Victorian terrace, and I was doing it to listen to this. You know what I mean? I was buying it to flip it. You know, I was buying it. It was right at that time. Remember, they were all on the telly, weren't they?
Yes.
What were they? You know, there was about 3 or 4 of them on the
flip your gaff,
flip your gaff or whatever. Yeah,
flip your gaff.
So I bought this
Channel 5.
I bought this Victorian terrace in Darlow for about. I think I bought it for 85,000.
That sounds expensive, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah. The funny thing is, now it would sell for 85,000. Yeah, but at the time,
you saying flipping heck.
No, but at the time, I flipped it for 115. You know what I mean?
Right, okay. Yeah.
So and then it's gone down in value, because this is the Northeast. It's a funny market. You know what I mean? But anyway, you could. Why am I saying this? Yeah,
I don't know.
The stamp duty at the time would have cost me several £1,000s.
Yeah,
and then they reduced it. I think to 80,000. They reduced the threshold to, or you know, just above or below. I'm not very good at these things, but it meant that I had to pay none.
Yes,
and I was in the process of buying it, so it was literally several £1,000s right in my pocket.
And may I ask if you'd voted strategically such that would happen?
Yeah, I think my vote made the difference.
Thank you. There you go. That's what we're talking about here. The power of democracy.
My abstention made the difference.
Possibly. Right. Back to our continuing blog and where we pop stories on to chat about, which seems to be going very well tonight. There are a few headlines there, and you can comment over here if during the week you're bothered to respond to any of these. You can do that over at our Expat Euro News website. And I saw this. This is one thing I definitely
you can affect the algorithm, guys. Look at me and Carl as a kind of an algorithm. And then go to post.
Do you want to be seen like that?
Go to post. What's it called? Post Haven.
Yeah.
Right. Go to post.
That'll affect our personal algorithms, won't it? That'll make us very happy.
Yeah. Go there and talk, and then we'll probably pay a little bit more attention to those stories if you show us that you're interested.
Or send things that you want us to talk about next Tuesday, because there is that as well. Now, there are definitely 3 things.
It's my Prince Charles mug. I thought it would have been great if I could.
Have you? I've got one on my desk. I've got the Royal Wedding Cup.
Oh my God.
29th of July 1981, Lady Diana Spencer. It's a complete coincidence, and I'm not in any way a royalist. Well, I am a royal. I'm a monarchist in the deepest sense of the principle of the thing, but not of this particular incarnation. I hope I've managed to express that. And what I wanted to bring, well, there are 3 things I'd love to squeeze in tonight. One of, and this is
a pineapple.
No, and end up in casualty. So, how did you end up with the pineapple vacuum cleaner and an action man on board? I fell over in the living room.
See, I nearly said plastic seahorse, but it was so specific. I thought maybe people will think.
Right. Sounds like you've got previous. Right. Okay. Right. The 3 things I'd like to squeeze in, Tony, if I may, are how we speak about people generally and the royal family in particular here. That's what this was about. Scornography. I'd like to introduce that into our conversation, and I can't remember the other one, so maybe I'll forget about that one. So this one is on Twitter, and this fits in with the earlier thing I was talking about. You know, where a news story gets puffed, an accusation of some sort gets thrown into this massive melee of news and information. Nobody responds to it. It's just shaping something at a very superficial level, as in, the gaze of the public is being dragged this way, then this way, and then up and then down. It's very manipulative. And
look over here while we do this.
Exactly. And these things happen. So what I see now on X is we have it might be King Charles himself, or Keir Starmer, and or Boris Johnson, and they'll put something on X, and every comment is just like slagging them off, insulting them. I mean, this is a very good example. This one, John O'Looney, who some people will know if they follow the other side of the sort of COVID and pandemic narrative, you'll be familiar with John O'Looney. But he says, "F you, sausage fingers, you're not my king." To which the king could write, "Your" is spelt Y-O-U apostrophe to get his own back with John O'Looney there. But I'm thinking that would not have happened in the 70s. I mean, we didn't have the technology to do it, did we? People would have said it in the pub, but nobody would have dared to put it in the public domain in quite this way. And this is really normal now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the threats of like imprisoning people for writing such things doesn't seem to be working with a lot or some people. I mean, are you concerned about this? That level of discourse and engagement. Is it because people don't feel they've a right to express themselves, and they express it in a really coarse and horrible and negative way?
Look, I don't like it when people are coarse, although I sometimes am. But but generally speaking, I would obviously prefer that everybody was nice and polite and friendly with each other. But sometimes listen to me. There's two things I would say. Yeah. Sometimes we read tone on
where
the
it
internet,
where it's not there.
So, for example, King Charles, you're not my king, but he might have said it kind of.
There's no way of saying that in "F you, sausage fingers, you're not my king." There's no way
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a teacher. It sounds kind of childish. It doesn't sound particularly to me. I'm not reading that in an angry voice.
I was shocked, and I shouldn't be. It's like first day on the internet sort of stuff, isn't it? I mean, and X is full of that sort of thing.
No, I'm not that shocked about it. But generally speaking, I am more worried about the consequences of censorship than I am about this type of comment. Even though I would prefer that people didn't do this, but he might have said it as a joke. You might not find it funny, but there might be people who. Do you know what I mean?
It's possible.
Like I'm obviously I know what you mean, but for me, I'm reading this one a little bit differently to I think how you are mentally.
Okay. Yeah. I think King
and
Charles.
I quite like King Charles.
Do you really?
Yeah, I like him.
Okay, the royal family and King Charles are supposed to be politically neutral, yet here he is championing the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and Klaus Schwab's Great Reset.
Is he championing it? Is he championing?
Well, there you go. You see,
like I want to see evidence before I take this headline.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. So I'd remember the third thing now, and it was the one that I sent to you just before the show started, which gave you a proper Victor Meldrew moment. And so for a moment, and we'll come to all your comments in just a moment. We're going back to the asylum seekers that you were talking about, or asylum itself. This is quite amazing. I sent this to Tony, and I had a very interesting reaction. We exchanged a few laughing emojis, laughing and crying in emojis. We were behind the scenes. Picture yourself as a parent. Dear parent carer, on Friday the 18th of October, this is from Walsingham School. And I'm thinking now maybe it is parody, but I just don't think it is. Our school will be taking part in a Blue Nose Day. Now, Red Nose Day we know, and we've had since the 80s, haven't we? And that's a real showbiz thing.
What about a Brown Nose Day?
Well, let's propose that. This will...
don't tempt me. I've got Outlook open and I'm Googling Walsingham schools. Yeah, anyway, probably
okay.
not.
This will entail the heating being turned off throughout the school day to conserve energy. Well, yeah, if you turn the heating off, that will conserve energy. We are doing this to help reduce our school's carbon footprint and raise the importance of being more sustainable.
Yeah,
on the 18th of October, students should maintain the exact uniform standards as usual, but we are recommending that they wear a black V-neck jumper if you already have one, or any non-visible layers under their uniform, skins, vest.
So this is how we're going to encourage students to watch their carbon footprint. We're going to turn the heating off and make them bloody cold. That'll stop them putting the heating on.
And you're not allowed to wear hoodies. Please note, hoodies will not be permitted, and blazers should be worn. Blazer being a real irony. There's nothing blazing on that day, is there? In school. So you were a bit shocked to see this, I think. Is this wokeness gone mad?
I just think it's something gone mad. I think my point to you, I said, I'm a teacher, and I can just imagine the staff room. I mean, there would have been. The problem is it's very difficult to go against this kind of like as soon as you hear carbon footprint, it's a little bit like, well, I better not comment.
Oh, like Black History Month. It's a sort of Black History
Month.
Month.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can we do Black History Month?
So, so there would have been people in the room, I'm sure, who would have said, "This is crazy," and and probably just sat there silent.
Yeah,
I think because it's obviously not a good idea.
Yeah,
you know, it's obviously not a good idea, is it?
Yeah, and I quite like that Bob Moran had posted this as well about Blue Nose Day. If I hadn't taken my children out of school precisely because of this kind of demented BS, the teachers would be experiencing a Black Eye Day. Now, I'm not
a Black Eye Day.
I'm not condoning violence here, but I understand Bob's concern. He's the cartoonist whose cartoon of President Biden sniffing a missile got me cancelled. I was developing a relationship with a new American friend, and I posted up a picture of Biden. It was a cartoon of Bob's, he's an amazing cartoonist. I think he got fired for some of his cartoons during the pandemic, and he's just published a book of cartoons. I think he's very gifted. Everything you'd expect from a really good cartoonist, you know, a political punch and excellent art at the same time. And there was a picture of Biden sniffing a missile. And this was the moment where someone sent me a message saying, you know, that's a right-wing hate meme. And I was really shocked. It was a cartoon making a point for sure, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, the guy literally. I mean, it's absolutely undeniable that this guy inappropriately sniffs young children and women inappropriately, and he's a warmonger.
Not the cartoonist.
But there's it's not a right-wing talking point about Biden. He does this, and he even admitted and apologized and said he wasn't aware of the sniffing problem.
Seriously, I'm not up to speed. I'm not up to speed.
Yeah. They probably don't know because of the algorithm. They probably don't know. They probably never saw that part. They've probably never seen. In fact, I could give you an example. Sorry to go off piste again, but I remember I told you I got blocked from that group X.
Oh yes.
Gen X on Facebook or whatever.
Gen Expats, yeah.
And I made the point to them because they were saying, "Oh, this is the sniffing thing." They told me it's a right-wing talking point, and I showed them a montage. Yeah. Because you can go on YouTube and there's montages of it, and you can see like the parents that look really uncomfortable because he's in there putting his hands and he's groping and he's sniffing. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting, yeah.
There's no way. What I would ask them is, would you leave your child with him? You know,
no, I wouldn't be doing that for all sorts of reasons, not least that one. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, and so there's a few things in there, aren't there? Like that response to deal with something. To deal with something you can't handle, you attack.
Talking point.
That is straight up ad hominem, isn't it? You're a right-wing meme poster.
Well, what I would return to them is, so you approve of old men groping young children? Is that a left-wing behavior point?
Do you know what I mean? Already been done by that point.
Well, I got banned, so I know what the response is.
You got banned, and this guy just unfriended and dropped me like a hot potato.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, I don't really want friends like that. Like it says, Munson The Geeza, it's not black and white. I'd have preferred it if he'd said, look, and I've done this with other people who've responded to me in the same way. And it is, I have to say, it's a bit of an American thing where I get American people who come via Good Morning Portugal. I'll post something up which is a bit off color, as it were, to them. And they'll say, that's just stupid, or I can't believe, or you're quite the stirrer, aren't you? And I'll say, what are you talking about? And it'll get a bit eggy, and I'll say, you know what? We should talk about this over a beer. Let's go and have a beer in San Martino de Porto and talk about it. And some of them will be up for it, and that's what I like. Gray, over a beer rather than falling out in that summary sort of social media execution. That used to worry me a lot more than it does now. Now I just think, well,
isn't it a cultural thing? And I don't mean this negatively at all. I just mean this as a matter of fact way, that British humor and Australian humor is kind of like what is it? There's a lot of irony and sarcasm there.
Yeah.
And I think that Americans are quite resistant to irony and that kind of humor. I think not always, obviously, because some of the best comedians in the world come from America, right?
And some of my best friends who happen to be American really love and get that type of sense of humor, which I think perhaps I'm saying.
But I mean, I definitely remember. I think I said before, when I grew up in Australia, you kind of have it's kind of like a mixed culture in Australia. You kind of get a lot of British influence, a lot of American influence, and the difference between American sitcoms, for example, and UK sitcoms couldn't be starker. They could not be starker.
Australian humor tends to be quite black and white, does it not, and quite old-fashioned?
I think so, but I think again it's very dry. So I think a lot of times Australians are often misunderstood when they say things, but British people can be misunderstood by American people in that way as well.
There seems to be. I heard a on John Campbell's YouTube. That's a YouTube band, just mentioning his name, isn't it? But he was talking to an Australian academic on there.
Right wing talking point.
Yeah, who said something like, "Well, even blind Billy could see that," and I'm like, "Wow, that's straight out of the 1960s or 70s." It's an academic talking about research, and he's a really old-fashioned guy.
Well, it's a problem sometimes because of course in the UK we expect our news presenters and our academics to speak in received English, don't we?
Yes, indeed.
But in Australia, there are only two kinds of Australians, mate. You do have the kind of city Australian that's not as
metropolitan elites.
Ochre. In Australia, we call it ochre. We say ochre. And that refers to that kind of Australian that's like, yeah, g'day, mate, chuck another shrimp on the barbie and all that. But the problem is a lot of people speak ochre who are on the TV and in academia. So it can be a bit off-putting when you hear someone, that star only comes into orbit about every 80,000 years. But we think that, the geometry of the, Pythagoras theorem or whatever, mate.
Or
it's hard to kind of take
why the hell would you vaccinate somebody in the ass when it's a respiratory virus? I mean, it makes no sense, mate.
Yeah, we got the RNA right, but we didn't take into account the cell's nucleus and the.
Let's move on. The problem with I'm going to come back to pornography in a bit. The problem with asylum seekers.
Oh, I've got something for that.
Is that it is next to impossible to verify the truth of the claims made. Yes. And it's come down to a catchphrase kind of buzzword, isn't it? What does it mean? It's not black and white. We need to take the term apart again, don't we? And understand what individuals who are facing horrific things obviously need to be helped. And people who are gaming that need to be discovered. And we're losing that. We're losing that particular battle by the sound of it. Therefore, the extent of gaming the system is off the scale. Migrants can be a cunning bunch. I had to read that carefully. When I was a kid, an asylum was a special hospital for people who are mentally unwell. Now the whole world. now a few people live inside a place of normality.
I can just imagine Jackie as a kid thinking, why are people seeking asylums?
Yes, that's right. But now it's the other way around, isn't it? But now people.
I got a feeling I might have thought that at one point as well.
Yeah, I mean, the word must mean what safety, mustn't it? With the mental asylum.
I guess so. So an asylum for people who are mentally. Yes, we get it. We get it.
That did confuse me when the words asylum seeker was all over the news. Hi there, fellas. Yeah, what happens, and we'll get the hang of this eventually, is I just do a little bit of a teaser on GMP because this isn't GMP content really, but just to alert people to the fact that this is streaming on GMP TV and join us. Subscribe to GMP TV and get a reminder, and you'll never miss this on a Tuesday evening. Jackie is knitting your clone, Tony. Is that a life-size crocheted version of you? We should make that merchandise of the show.
I'm not sure about.
What about no? Come on.
I got a feeling I'll be walking along and I'll feel
what a knitting needle. Yeah,
because there'll be people voodooing me, people who have annoyed on social media. I see.
The woolen action figures not for you then. 2C is now on a list the list.
I'd probably have one for my shelf, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, okay. Along with, I'll buy one with Tony, not with Tony Robinson, but Tommy Robinson, Jeff Taylor. Oh yeah, him, Jeff Taylor. He's an interesting man, isn't he? You don't know
Katie Price.
Katie, no, Katie. You're talking about the other one, aren't you? Katie, what's she called?
Is Katie Price not the
the ex Page 3 girl? Not Katie Price. Katie, I can't remember her name now. And Paul Forbes, don't know him, but Jeff Taylor, I can never get my head around how he speaks. Hello, I'm Jeff Taylor. I'm on my TV. I can get only the 11. Okay, I think we've sorted that out. I think there's a general dislike here. Only you seem to like King Charles, possibly. Okay.
Well, I don't know the guy. But I've seen him speak. I saw a YouTube video where a couple of mountain bikers stopped near him, and he came across this really quite down to earth, like really natural speaker. And I thought that's the only time I've ever seen him speak in an unofficial capacity. So some mountain bikers were riding in Scotland, and they just came across him walking down a lane.
Yes.
And although
off my land,
I suppose that could have been,
Yes. Right. Yeah. 79 election made a big difference. It revitalized the economy and broke the unions. I think the Blair years also did, delivering devolution and the start of mass migration. They weren't presented in quite the same way, though, were they? Crypto strategies as massive, a far right problem, or I guess no, maybe the left did have that. It was the other way around, wasn't it? In the 80s, possibly 70s, 80s, of the hard left. And now we're in our far right bit. Okay, yeah, that's a historical perspective there. Shager, aside from their immigration stance, I do not really consider to be a true right-wing party. They still support high taxes and massive.
Yeah, they're populist, aren't they? Populist.
Yep. Yes, that makes sense. We can say what you like about T-Duck because he can't hear us. He can just see us at the moment. Thanks for tuning in. If you can, lip read T-Duck. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm not even going to try. In the 80s, and not that either. Charles did say that the West's great reset was the golden opportunity in 2020 and has historically attended the event. I think that's right. I think it's fair to call him a supporter of the agenda there. And that's a lot of people with a personal agenda seem to roll it in, don't they, into WEF agendas so they get some traction and a bigger audience. I'm not saying that's an excuse or a good reason, but there seems to be a sort of magnetic effect of the WEF with other people who've got a sub-agenda coming into it, the likes of the young lady, Greta Thunberg, that sort of thing. Thunberg, okay. A child could easily beat up old Joe, so nothing to worry about there if he does look after your kids. The guy's at best 30% there. And he's running the country with no widespread. Again, if you said he was mentally ill or senile, again, that was right-wing hate.
Right-wing talking point.
Right-wing talking point. There you go. Crypto strategist. He's not well.
Completely competent.
Look at that.
Right man for the job. That's another place Kamala's stuck, isn't she? Because up until 5 minutes ago, that was her stance. Yes. I've been in the room with him. He's completely competent. He's all there. And then bang.
Yeah. And then as soon as I'm not there, it's like Schrodinger's Biden, isn't it? Is he senile when you're not looking, or only when you're looking? Maybe. Maybe when he's in the Oval Office running the country, he's not. But only when he comes into your.
I've seen a few times when he's speaking where he seemed really competent. But then the right wing talking point is that they fill him with drugs so that he can do that, right?
Yes, maybe. I don't know. Mrs. M, loving this conversation or the conversation. So smart. Who won the woke off? We didn't really have a woke off. Did you? Did you think you won that one?
Yeah, I won it.
Okay,
only because I said it first. You just agreed. You just said me too. Copied me. You copied me.
All right. I got to watch the replay and have an independent adjudication. I grew up in California. It was always pronounced Kamala until it wasn't. So T-Duck can hear us. Crypto strategist, I reckon the only reason Queen Liz was around so long is because she didn't want to give the country to that clown Charlie. Oh, come on.
I think maybe they changed it from Kamala to Kamala after she had the operation.
Just as we go in, as we're closing the show, you throw in another right-wing hate grenade.
Well, she's the first. My understanding is she's the first transracial woman.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, I mean, she was Indian, wasn't she? And now she's black.
I wasn't on the same page as you there, but that's still a right-wing talking.
Hey, imagine what it's like for me living in here.
Yes. Okay. At least we only have to have an hour, the rest of us, right? On a Tuesday evening between 7 and 8. No, I think Jackie got beef or whether that is in Welsh, because he was the Prince of Wales. When you've had him rammed down your throat as your sort of sovereign leader, that must be a little bit awkward if you're not a royalist. So I think that might be the backstory there.
When they say the Prince of Wales, though, does that mean the prince who's the ruler of Wales, or because I could argue that I'm Tony of Lambeth, but I don't. What I mean is I was born there. I don't mean I'm the king of Lambeth, and nor would I want to be.
You ain't got a mug though, have you?
I would renounce the. I do have a mug.
Yeah, you don't. You're pretending to have a mug. Right. I did want to talk about scornography. Maybe we'll
this is cyberbullying. You're cyberbullying me.
He's only just noticed after 4 episodes. Right. Take me to a tribunal.
It's a conspiracy. I'll be seeking asylum soon, but a real asylum.
Right. Now, big news. Thomas Tuchel, who has become England manager. Thank you for that, Pete. Do you approve of that? And scornography, I'd like to posit this. I'd like to posit this with you. Better manager than a boxer, I suspect, looking at some of his videos of him punching a punch bag. Anyway, scornography, this I have coined today because it's something that occurred to me, Tony, and we might pick up and run with this. Or by next week, we might have a whole load of new things to be looking at and getting upset about and laughing at. The often addictive practice of taking pleasure in observing contemptuous and disdainful exchanges between human beings, with such exchanges most commonly taking place on the internet. Now, you see what I'm doing here? I'm likening it to pornography, where people are basically observing other people in sexual acts. I think there's a thing we don't even know we're doing at the moment.
I recognize it because I used to do it. And then I quit because I realized I was doing it. And I've spoken about a particular kind of video on YouTube that I think might fit this.
Go on, tell me.
Yeah, it's these kind of like I've got a video on my screen now. Can I share it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. You see, I think maybe where you're going is the Steve Irwin type of videos where you see. I mean, I have admitted to having a penchant for seeing paedophiles being beaten up, but it's not edifying or great. And anything like that where we're taking a vicarious pleasure and an observing pleasure in looking at the strife between other people is quite the sickness we're going through at the moment. We've no business with that.
Am I sharing a screen of a YouTube video?
You are, and I've got to take it on to the next stage.
Okay. Right. So you see the title, which lures you in, right?
Yes, indeed. So this is an extreme version of what I'm talking about. Scornography.
Jordan Peterson calmly humbles woman. Now, this is actually a soft version because quite often you'll see the ones that I really, really despise. And to his credit, I've heard Ben Shapiro say that he doesn't like them either, which is where it'll say something like Ben Shapiro destroys student.
That's the word.
Student. Yes. Or what's his name? James O'Brien.
Demolishes.
James O'Brien demolishes
Brexit supporter.
Yeah, dumb working class
gammon.
Gammon.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Gammon demolition, yes.
This kind of thing. And like if you're watching it because you want to see a working class gammon destroyed or a woman calmly humbled, then I would say you kind of need to check yourself.
Absolutely. Really. But I think it's far more serious. I guess it's a bit like pornography or sexual imagery. It's everywhere. This viewing of other people giving each other a difficult time on a spectrum of just being mildly unpleasant to actually being, lethally destructive, grievously bodily harmful to other people, it seems to be all around us at the moment. And it's only just occurred to me that is the case.
Well, these two have obviously been put together because I mean, you can see the body language. Like if
cites Scandinavian countries where they've made more like
you can see the body language.
He's getting ready, isn't he? He's getting ready to do it.
She's angry and upset.
Yeah.
Right. And he's obviously in his mind getting ready to calmly humble her.
He's been here before. It's the Kathy Newman moment, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the Kathy Newman thing, I use that. I have a few lessons where I taught students about logical fallacies, and I do actually use that particular clip. And I think that the weird thing in that particular video is Kathy Newman arguably was being the worst behaved in it. But I do think that you have to be very careful about your motivation for watching these things.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Because it is a kind of a sickness, isn't it? It's a kind of a sickness.
It is. It really is. And it's at epidemic proportions. I like those audit videos, says Crypto Strategist, probably a bit like me, where photographers get into confrontations with police and security. Yes, that's right. Step back. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm not touching you. Yeah, you're touching me. Don't touch me.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed.
Yeah. Does that count as? I think it absolutely counts.
Yeah,
as
it does. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying you're a bad person. It's what Tony said. It's like having a look at ourselves, checking ourselves, and seeing very perhaps wisely or transcendently, what are we doing? What are we doing as these things scroll past us and we're drawn into them? Yeah. What is our own personal value judgment if we assess our own behavior, not each other's, because that becomes scornography in its own right.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit is there was going back before sort of the internet was a big thing. I can remember watching. I could go back even further. I first noticed this effect with I think it was in Australia. It was called Australia's Funniest Home Videos, and there was an American one. I mean, the Australian one was probably a rip-off of that. But I happened to, I remember I was quite young. I was probably like a teenager or something. And I remember for some reason, the volume was down on the TV. And I happened to see, do you know what I mean by American funny videos? Do you know how those work?
What, that draw you in and you're hooked?
Well,
even after the break, we find out what happens.
People do a home video and then they send them into that show. I don't know if they had it in Britain, right?
You've been framed. No, not you. Yes. Yeah.
But it was
you
fun.
Got paid, didn't you? You got paid to send in.
Yeah.
You were paid.
The thing was, I happened to see it, and I just for some reason was kind of absentmindedly watching it without the volume on, and I just what I saw was a kid slam into a lamppost on his bike.
Yes.
And then an old lady got washed off some rocks.
Yes.
And I thought,
this is sick.
Holy shit. Without the canned laughter, what the hell is this? And then later on I saw a similar thing, which is this is at the time when I was working in social housing, and I was quite aware of people with mental health problems. And I again saw this thing, which was I was watching I can't remember, one of those Britain's Got Talent or whatever with Simon Cowell on it. There's loads of them, and they're all the same.
Humiliation.
And my girlfriend at the time also worked in mental health, and we were both sitting on the sofa watching, and they'd kind of they'd made like a montage of kind of the people who obviously got no talent.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Kelly, and she looked at me at the same time. We're going, a lot of these people have got mental illness.
Oh, well.
You know what I mean? And what the fuck is going on?
Why are we sitting here? What was that?
Why are we sitting here laughing at this?
Mate, what was that recent phenomenon? Baby, about the woman who stalks the guy in the bar, Baby something or other. I can't remember the name of it now. Somebody will tell us in the chat, but it was the same thing. The woman wasn't well, and she had been exploited, in my view, not only in the dramatic piece that was made, but the whole news furore after it. It just went on and on. And Karen videos as well. Now, I understand it. I'm not meaning to say, you're a bad person if you're into scornography, but it's worth having a look, isn't it, at our motivations and having those moments like you talked about, Tony, where you think, hold on a minute, without the canned laughter, this is just awful for that.
Yeah, so I said that to people at the time. I remember next time that America's Home Videos or Australia's Home Videos, I think they both had one. I said, try watching it. I mean, some of them are still funny, you know what I mean? Some of them are, but a lot of them are like, wow, would you really laugh at a kid hitting a lamppost on their bike?
Yeah.
Would you laugh at that?
You probably would, and you would rush to their aid, wouldn't you? It's like there is something about the reflex of slap.
I mean, I'm not sure that I would have called it, but it's interesting to think about that was happening then as well, because people think that this pulling out, it's obviously easier now to pull out a phone than it was to pull out a camcorder.
Yes. Oh, weren't they brilliant? Where you had to carry the whole thing on your shoulder rather than just leave this about. Now, the other part of this, as a somewhat serious issue, is checking that motivation and seeing what it is that makes you like to see a Karen getting a dressing down or a rebuttal. And I think what it is, what's going on with this scornography and our interest in looking at other people's misfortune is we like to see the misfortune of the people we've been told to dislike or conditioned ourselves, and other people have conditioned us to dislike. Because I think that goes on. You know, we would like to think we've made our own dislikes, wouldn't we? But a lot of them are conditioned.
Because I've also wondered if, and I wondered out loud on Facebook and got quite a diverse bunch of opinions, about 50-50 actually.
Okay.
But I wondered whether Karen might be a racist term for middle-aged white women.
Yes. Yeah.
And not only middle-aged, but I think you're quite often middle class.
Yeah.
Middle-class white women.
That's right. And what's going on with this that I think we're not seeing is what you're seeing with the kid who slams into a lamppost, the old granny who gets washed off the rocks. And I'm laughing because these are in some ways comedic and slapstick scenarios. But the Karen who gets her just desserts in a car park somewhere, or X, Y, and Z, all of these where you're seeing somebody who you don't like or you do like getting their just desserts. It's not personal. It's not about that particular person, is it? It's an expression of your hatred and discomfort for a type of person that is finding its focus in that individual. And that's it's not called Baby Donkey. Come on, someone else help me out here with that drama that happened recently. Baby Squid, Baby Elephant, whatever it was called. That I think there was a general people had a sense of fun, and they couldn't rubbernecking other people's experience. And the tragedy of it, I think, is it ends up on the shoulders of that individual when in fact it's aimed at a group experience or a generalized feeling that people have. And that's my big concern about this. What I see is it's everywhere, voyeuristically looking at the difficulties other people are having, you know, as in online, but offline. We're not involved. We're not involved with that situation, but we involve ourselves as a voyeur in it, which makes it like pornography. It's like we've no right to be there, but because of the technology, we can be there. And then we're working sort of psychotherapeutically on, we're working out our own stuff when it appears to be just us laughing or taking pleasure in someone else's downfall, which is, I think, what's going on. Baby reindeer. Thank you very much.
Baby reindeer, not baby donkey.
Did you see Baby Reindeer? Okay,
I haven't
sure you'd have something to say about it, but I just felt really sorry for that woman. And of course, she allegedly did some terrible things, but she wasn't well, and it just looked like she was being massively exploited. As I think this whole scornography thing is. For me, I like to see the humbling of entitled people. There you go. You see, that's a really good example, isn't it? It's because you've got a thing about entitled people. So when you get the chance to watch a video of them being taken down a peg or two, it's not about that individual that you're seeing, you know, having the rug pulled under them, either literally or figuratively, but it is that individual who will feel that, or people who imagine they have more authority than they actually do. And I guess, you know, we do like to see that, don't we? But I don't know. I think there's something.
And she might not be like that all the time. That's the other thing that worries me, is maybe she's just having some crazy day, and you don't know what else went on. You know.
Quite.
I don't know.
Yeah, there we go. The edited highlights that we know and love. Right, Tony, have you had any job offers, or are you thinking of emigrating this week?
No, but just some of the topics tonight really did touch a nerve, and it reminded me of possibly the worst thing that happened to me when I was a child.
Go on.
And it was it sounds pretty simple, but it was quite tragic. It was my grandmother. She told me that she was just popping upstairs, and she went upstairs.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Oh,
she popped. She popped.
Tony, would you like to not talk about this? Is it too difficult for you?
You can see it's too difficult for me.
Okay, all right. Shall I just play the music?
Munson and the Geeza. Munson and the Geeza. Geeza, news in every ride.